Hey guys, my name is Paulina Zhu, and today I'm going to be teaching you some tips that you guys can use to learn your dances better and faster. So let's get started. Okay, so tip number one is to practice the dance moves until you have them memorized. Now, this may seem very hard, but I'll tell you how to do this later on. The reason why I recommend this is because without a dance video, you won't really know how to dance because you rely on the layout or the map of the video, and you don't have any of the muscle memory to depend on. So when that video gets taken away, you struggle and you fumble about much more than you would if you had memorized it. So I really do recommend practicing it until it's in your memory. Also, this helps avoid the situation of, I don't know what to do with this part. I know the next part of the dance, but kind of killing time right now, hoping the song would speed up. So we can avoid this little tragic incident by memorizing the dance. Now, as for actually learning the dances, one tip, or the second tip, is slowing down the dance video and really watching the choreographer. And I know that sounds like really obvious, like Paulina, obviously we're gonna do that, but I really mean watching the choreographer. And even when you learn the dance, going back and studying and revising your dance moves so that you can mimic the choreographer well. A third tip is to isolate dance moves. So sure, it's a full body dance, but why don't we isolate just the arms first? Then we could do the legs, and then we could add them together. Tip number 4 is to slow down the video and keep it slow until you are ready. Speeding it up too soon can lead to frustration, unrealistic expectations, and it will lower your levels of motivation. Remember to keep a sympathetic and growth mindset as a dancer because you are still learning. So after some practice, without a doubt, you'll be able to speed it up. Now, tip number 5 is to learn the dance to the point where you can turn away from the dance video and without any music or any assistance, you dance on your own. Yes, you can use a mirror, but this really tests you to actually practice the dance moves and etch them into memory. Like, oh man, what do I do after this part? You look at the dance video, you watch it, and you mimic it, and you keep trying it until you can do it without any music or any visual assistance. Now, this process is difficult, but nevertheless, I really do recommend going through this trial and error process and overcoming that growth curve so eventually you can learn the correct dance moves. This will also boost your confidence because you're actually gonna know what you're doing. Yay! Which we all love. So I really do recommend going through that process. Now, tip number 6 is making little stories and noises to help you learn dance moves. So for example, this. The little remembering cues that I used for this dance were throwing the towel and then showing my guns. So for example, throw the towel, show your guns. That's how I would remember that dance. And I do this for a lot of other dances. And as weird as this may seem, because of the unique storytelling and noise that you do, it's gonna stick to you a lot more. Tip number 7 is for if you're performing or recording, keep going until the dance or the song is over. As they say, the show must go on. And in reality, if you make mistakes, nobody else really knows that, only you do. If you were to stop, it's gonna be noticeable. And what happens if that was like the best take yet, or you were doing so good? Well, you don't wanna ruin that. So keep on going with the dance until it's done. Tip number 8 is to be happy with your overall performance. If you are recording one takes, you're gonna notice that there are parts where you have done really well and parts where you could have done better. But remember, we are human and we can't achieve perfection, so sacrifices must happen. As long as you are happy with the overall performance, you should be happy and proud of yourself. As for a live performance, nobody knows you've made a mistake. Just keep on dancing and be happy of what you've accomplished. If you struggle with keeping up with the speed or you keep forgetting a part of the dance, tip number 9 is to keep practicing this part over and over again until you can remember it a bit more clearly. And as tip number 4 says, slow down the speeds if necessary. There is no shame in that. You are still in the learning process. Tip number 10 is to practice the dance throughout the day, whether that be in front of the mirror or just using your muscle memory. You can try practicing the part that you keep forgetting. And if you are in public waiting in line, you can even just try mentally recalling it. Alternatively, tip number 11 is to go on about your day or even call it a night. Taking time away from the problem can be a big help because you aren't actively ruminating or becoming frustrated. Instead, your brain is having time to rest, and this will help with memorization naturally. And finally, tip number 12 is to give yourself grace. Remember, you are only human and you are trying your best, so mistakes are natural and inevitable. Remember to seek improvement, never give up, and be kind to yourself. Now here's a recap of all the tips. Tip number 1 is to practice the dance moves until you have them memorized. Tip number 2 is to slow down and observe where each body part should be and at what times by looking at the choreographer. Tip number 3 is to isolate the body parts until you can put them all together. Remember to focus on the limbs and big movements, then move on to the smaller details. Tip number 4 is to slow down the video and keep it slow until you are ready. Tip number 5 is make sure you can dance the moves without the music or visual aid. Tip number 6 is to make noises and stories to help remember the dance moves. Tip number 7 is for if you're performing or recording, don't stop until the dance is done. Tip number 8, be happy with your overall performance. As for overcoming challenges, tip number 9 is to keep practicing the dance over and over until you can remember it a bit more. Tip number 10 is to practice throughout the day in your normal life. Tip number 11 is to go to bed and take time away from your dance problems. Tip number 12 is to give yourself grace. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment any dance experiences that you've had or any tips that I might have missed. Make sure to stay healthy, keep on dancing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!